So, moving ahead, the objective of today's roundtable is to listen and learn these strategies need to be followed for sustainable tourism in post-COVID world. As we know, the COVID-19 pandemic brought the world to an exceptional standstill, redefining our daily lives to what we now call as a new normal. This global health crisis not only affected the lives but also the livelihood of people across sectors. The world is fighting the health crisis by following physical distancing, strict hygiene, or maybe safety guidelines. It has been claimed that the recession brought in by the coronavirus will be far worse than Great Recession of 2009. However, the pandemic has also presented us with a silver lining of this dark cloud of the tourism sector, the chance to bring an impactful focus on sustainable tourism. As we know now, sustainability is no longer simply understood as anything to do with environment alone. It is now has a such much broader meaning that includes social, cultural, economic, and physical aspects of a destination. This is why all stakeholders must work together to emerge out of current crisis and make tourism more sustainable as a long-term goal. Now, I won't take much time and would like to reach out to the panel and would want them to share their thoughts and strategies as a way forward, what they think need to be taken care to maintain that sustainable tourism henceforth in the new normal. I would first like to go to Romil. Romil, I would like to know your thought before we move ahead.
Okay, thanks, Manisha, first of all, for inviting us on this for this platform. To start with, as you said, this is a situation which has never come earlier. So this is whatever we are going to say is just anticipation of the things which we envisage is going to happen. So till now, we have always been bothered about sustenance as regards the climatic conditions are concerned, or the effect of so many people getting to so many different places in remote places and making it dirty. So that's one thing which becomes a second priority now. The first and foremost is to at least give it a start, rather than thinking of what will be the after effects. But then it's like a situation nobody anticipated. So the situation which is going to come up in future is going to be totally new. As of now, we can only plan how we are going to address this situation. So as the government itself, there's a situation wherein we need to find a balance between the cost and the benefit of these kind of expeditions which you're going to say. Since ours is a high altitude expedition company, so we'll focus on the aspects related to our company, which is the boots and crampons. There is one aspect wherein the economy or the people suffering who are on ground involved in these kind of activities. And the second aspect is, even if the government opens up these kind of activities, then what will be the impact to the locals who as of now have isolated to a certain extent. Now people from urban cities go over there, carry the infection, and then pollute as regards the health is concerned. That becomes a major challenge. Government is taking a lot of steps both in Himachal as well as Uttarakhand, because we envisage that as regards the travel is concerned, overseas travel is surely going to take some time. So the initial step has to be promotion of local tourism as close to the location as possible, because again, anything which you can travel by your own vehicle, do an expedition and come back will be the preferred option on the step one for anything like this. And that also first will be the hiking part. You go in the morning, come back in the evening, that sort of a thing. Then will be a day or two treks, then will be expeditions. So this is the thought process which is as of now happening. And once the states open up, there is still not a clear policy, because states like Himachal, Uttarakhand, they had initially started, but then there was a lot of resistance from the locals saying that if anything goes wrong, because of the interaction between the trekkers or the expedition people and the locals get infected. So there'll be, a lot of medical issues, because those locations are as it is remote. So as far as companies are concerned like us, we are making our protocols ready, so that once the things open up and the situation improves, then how we are going to address it. So as of now, government has made mandatory that 72 hours before you enter any other state, you need to have that COVID mandatory checks to be conducted. Once that is done, then how each and every company is going to have their protocols in place so as to address the situation is something which needs to be taken care of. And this is the time wherein you can make sure that whatever steps are need to be taken to have a streamlined procedure, so that minimum interaction between the trekkers and the local population, minimum interaction between the staff of the trekking team and the trekkers, and the social distances to be maintained between the trekkers. Those three things, I think, are going to be playing a crucial role once these things open up. So that is our take as of now.
Fine, Romil. Rudra, I would like to go to you, since we have things to share in terms of how we're gonna maintain the social distancing. But when it comes to skydiving, of course, we can't maintain that kind of a distancing. Or maybe, I'm just wondering and what is your plan? Are you gonna restructure things? Is there anything that you are taking care of, why diving? Because you would be a co-diver with a person. So how and what is your take about this?
Well, like you rightly said, we are a contact sport. There is no denying that. And this is an extraordinary situation which calls for some extraordinary measures. So we've built some very strong SOPs based on the recommendations from the global standards that are being followed post-COVID. I would just like to confirm that most parts of the world, skydiving has restarted. And as of yesterday, we have also, as of 4th of August rather, we have also received our permission from the government of India to start skydiving. So hopefully September 2nd week, we will resume our operations. Having said that, we did go through a series of SOPs formulation, both at our end and then from the government end. So very strict checking in terms of obviously no COVID test possible when a customer gets to us, but very strict thermal screening. We've created a sanitization chamber that everybody has to walk through before they enter the airport premises. Obviously sanitizers, etc., available at every point of contact. We made our transaction with the customer completely non-touch, which basically means that just until before the dive, whether it is their paperwork or payments, everything is online and everything is touchless completely. Once, however, we do gear up, the gear that we are using is sanitized after every jump, and the instructor themselves wears the mask and then there's a helmet on top of it. So if I'm the instructor and you are attached to me, we are both facing that in the opposite direction. And while you are touching me, it's only your back that's touching my front. And I wear a helmet and a mask inside my helmet. The helmet is not something that has come out only after COVID. It's something that we've been following nonetheless as skydivers. So it's going to work out. But mostly, I think, just like skydiving and any other adventure sport, I also feel like at some level you have to let the customer understand that there is a risk involved in what you're going to do, and you have to be accepting of that risk, and be also sure that you're not exposing somebody else to that risk. Which means that if you are coming from a containment zone, or have somebody in your family or anybody you've known has got COVID, or you're coming from or you're not feeling well yourself, I mean, you owe it to yourself and to everyone else to not expose them to your situation. So that's pretty much how I think most adventure sports also work. We as skydivers mostly follow that there are safety recommendations, but we're jumping out of a plane and going to land back on the ground. So there is an inherent risk in what we are trying to do. So we have to be sure that whatever we are doing, we understand what we are doing, and that we take all and every precaution before we proceed. So I think mostly strict SOPs, ensuring that you follow those SOPs is what we are going to be focusing on.
Okay, wonderful. Gaurav, if I'm not wrong, you just came back from Chandratal, if I'm not wrong. You need to unmute yourself, Gaurav. You're muted. Your mic is off.
Is it audible now?
Yes, we can.
Yes, so I did. We just went for a night halt and returned yesterday evening itself.
Okay, so I'm just looking forward, how Hippie Hills are taking it forward. What are the SOPs that they came up as a solution?
Well, Manisha, now because I'm based out of Manali in Himachal, and all of us out here are just waiting for the latest regulations from the state government on how to go about this pandemic. So, as of now, like although the state government had opened the borders for the tourists to come in, but then most of
Mhm.
the districts, as of now, along with the local associations, including the adventure and the other related associations, none of them are willing to take in tourists as of now. So, but hopefully,
Okay.
what we feel is like in a month or so, like we'll be ready with this. But still, like all in all, like we need the SOPs, to come out and to make everyone get prepared for this.
So are you done with SOPs, or you still need to work on it?
I think
Keeping
for the people like who are related to the adventure sector in Himachal, we are still waiting for the exact SOPs. How to go about a trek, or how to go about an expedition. But
Mhm.
then, like the standard ones which are being followed almost, let's say, throughout the country or the world, we are keeping in touch with that as well. And yeah, let's see how it goes about.
Perfect. Shahid, I would like to reach out to you.
Yeah.
Your thoughts.
Well, like Gaurav said, first of all, hello everyone. It's great to be amongst all you people coming from different professional disciplines. Well, me as an individual who already lives in Himachal Pradesh, district Chamba, and a person who has spent a lot of years in mountaineering. So apart from that, like Gaurav said, like even if the government has allowed tourism from outside, the localites over here, not just the one associated with the adventure tourism sector, they are not very comfortable. Not because they are not welcoming, but they have managed to stay out of the contamination easily, especially the people in the villages, because the population is less densely populated. So now they don't want to take any risk. Now I'm sure this cannot continue for a long time, because everybody would want their economic life to revive as soon as possible. So they would like to restart their normal activities as soon as possible. But this is a reality that they are a bit uncomfortable, right? Now, irrespective of all this, and to whatever degree the things start later on or sooner or later, according to me, there should be three main parameters on which we must be focusing on. The first one is how much we are prepared and what is our staff readiness to deal with the situation. Fine. And the second one is to provide a safe experience. The third one and the most important one is to rebuild trust. We need to work on these three factors primarily. Fine. So if you want me to elaborate more, I can do that, but discussion will become very long. But to express my views and my understanding in brief, if we have these three parameters, so probably we'll get the outlining how to proceed ahead. Fine, because the main factor is to deal with the social people. Fine, they are not very comfortable, so we need to ensure that none of our action, none of our things that we are doing should send a wrong message, right? We need to ensure two-way, in fact I would say three ways safe experience, not just safe experience for our staff, which must be already prepared and ready. We need to ensure safe experience for the clients, tourists, be it trekking, mountaineering expedition, or whatsoever. And the third one is we need to be very careful about social factors. Fine. The villages and people, localites involved, they must not feel finicky. They must not feel unsafe. They must not react unnecessarily and provide an overall negative experience to everybody associated. Fine. So these are three factors that we must take into consideration.
Perfect. Keval, your thoughts? How Beyond Altitudes is prepared to face the new normal? Sorry, we can't hear you, Keval. There is some problem with your audio. No, sorry. Can you please check at your end? Meanwhile, Samson, I would like to know your view. Like, how Space Apple, since Rudra has covered up most of the point, how he is ready, since it is like a zero contact sport. So I would like to know how Space Apple is a strategizing thing, how they are coming up to face the challenge.
Yeah, I'm based in, hi everyone. I'm based in Maharashtra, Mumbai, and we lost a very good 3 months of good business season. That is March, April, May. And right now it's an off season till about October. So we have some time, fortunately, to plan. And Ministry of Tourism in Maharashtra, they are having a meeting on 12th, that is about after 2-3 days, about discussing how exactly we can start our sports, especially for trekking and everything, which is right now a peak season. But for us, we still have a bit of a time. But I basically teach people how to do learn on their own how to fly paramotors as well as paragliders, and we also give joyrides. But we can limit the number of students, and that's how we can look at it. And as well as it's not really a contact sport. While teaching, also we have a lot of distance. We can easily manage a distance with each other, as well as by giving joyrides too. If you manage to say paramotoring trike joyrides only, then we really have a distance because we have a separate independent chairs for each other, front and back. So let's see, we really don't have really to worry about it for another month or so, or maybe till September we can plan about it. But I think we will not be affected much.
Glad to know that, Stanson. Keval, is your audio working now?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So hi everybody. I'm sorry for the glitch. But yeah. So this year we were gonna climb Mount Annapurna. So I was on an expedition to Annapurna. So which has been postponed. Nepal is open from September, but we are planning it next year. And for the local trekking, so as Gaurav said, rightfully that it is very important for the locals to be safe, because majority of the work is done by the locals, and their team to be safe and sound is our priority. So next month I am meeting my team personally, which is in Manali, also in Uttarakhand, and we are commonly sitting together and discussing all the parameters, like what all safety precautions do they want, because their confidence is very important for me, and we are trying to understand their point of view, that what all requirements they have, because whether the villages are where we are planning to go for the hikes are well equipped or not with the hospital and medical facilities. If not, then maybe we would like to set up temporary facilities over there, maybe get some portable ventilators to the hospitals over there till our batches run, and carry a strong medical supply along with us, and also limit the number of batches, and also help the local people wherever we are visiting, that if they have any medications or requirements or anything that they are suffering from, so we can help them treat normal ailments. So that is what right now we are working on.
Fine. Happy to know, Keval, and you've raised a very good question. In fact, Shahid has also raised a similar point. Local is something we normally call them ground handlers also.
Yep.
Now, they are the core, like how you run the business. Basically, they are the helping hand, be it mules, be it like you need a local, say maybe someone who can handle the kitchen, the local guide also. So local, what will be the strategy to revive, to build the trust, to get their confidence, to make them as a customer as well as a brand ambassador of the product also? So Shahid and Romil, I want to know your view. What do you think, and how are you thinking to revive them?
So I'll start. Basically, what we are doing is, one is the local aspect. Second is educating our people, the ones who are going to accompany us. So we're preparing our plans in form of videos for educating them. Once a person registers for any trek, what all precautions need to be taken care of. Those will be educating them right at the intro videos of any particular expedition, that, how do you need to pack your tent, because these kind of things, we don't want that interaction of the trekkers with our teams as less as possible. So contactless means not just the payment gateway, that obviously is going to be one part of it. Second is, training them on packing of sleeping bags, pitching of tents, and then packing of tents, so that once the porter carries it to another location, before that the sanitization is done, so that minimum interaction is there between both the teams. Similarly, with the locals, we would encourage, once a trekker goes to any place, then he visits the market only if it is really essential. So we want minimum interaction with local people who are there of that city. So in case of any last minute shopping and all, that needs to be done. So that's why we'll be doing a pre-video seeing all the checking of gear so that there's no last minute rush at any destination once you reach there for buying of stuff. So that is one way of limiting the interaction between the locals as well as with the trekkers. And then reaching to the destination also, we are encouraging teams, that they travel in their own vehicle rather than in a public transport right till the base camp if it is possible, or otherwise till the central location. And then we'll ensure that minimum interaction is there, social distancing is maintained till the time we reach the base camp.
Okay.
So these are the steps which we need to make sure. And then, as everybody said, most important, the locals should have that confidence that the economy is going to grow once tourists come, and the tourists will come once they have that confidence that once the tourists come, they don't come with a disease or a COVID pandemic along with them. So that needs to be taken care of. That confidence will come once the initial batches go, and then initial batches also we are limiting the strength so that it's not an issue as regards the bunching up is concerned, or as regards the interaction between the team members is concerned. Then small things like independent tents for all the trekkers or the expedition members, a separate cutlery, and then no central mess tents or dining tents, which usually is the case. That needs to be avoided till the time things improve.
Perfect. Shahid, I would just like to know how you are planning to, because we've discussed this part also, that how local are important and why we need to get them on board and build their confidence to move ahead.
Yeah. So Manisha, a lot of things can be done. I mean, while working in confluence with the authorities, administration, operator side, and the tourist and client side. Fine. So first of all, if I imagine in real life scenario, here are a few things that I will do, and this will be my particular approach. In case a client or let's say a group of people approaches me, first of all, it will be my duty, and this is what I will do, to inform them of the realistic situation on ground. They must be ready for no-go situation, any situation where they need to adapt, compromise, or any stuff like that. Okay. Second is I will give them certain instructions which I expect them to abide by for their own safety and for everybody's safety, right? And I prefer them to follow them with the preference. Some of them could be like Mr. Romil just said, that they can bring their own tents. Mentioning about the tents, they can bring their own tents if they possible. Otherwise, all the facilities we have, if they want everything to run like before, that's not an issue. But if they want to adjust a little bit, improvise a little bit, here are a few things that they can do. First of all, they should keep one thing in mind, that they got to minimize the interaction. They can bring their own tents. They can avoid carrying unnecessary stuff, because going in the mountain itself requires a lot of stuff in your rucksack itself. Fine, rucksack is kind of your Almira. Fine, if we carry all the necessary things even. Fine, but most of the people don't do it. People who are untrained, who are less professionals, who are little novice, they're more excited to go and enjoy in the hills. They bring a lot of stuff. So minimize that. As far as utensils are concerned, of course, we have all the services available. They can bring their own utensils. When I say utensils, they can bring their tiffin, they can bring their anything, cup, teacup, or stuff like that. Fine, so that they have that confidence that they are much more safer, so that they don't have any sort of speculations in their mind.
Yeah.
No doubt they will be doing 72 hours prior medical checkup, which we will be taking into consideration, and then they will be allowed to come in. If I'm not wrong, as per my information goes, they will have to quarantine themselves for 7 days. Fine, as per the regulations of the government in the hotel. But those 7 days can be utilized, right? This is needless to say, they are following the basic protocols of sanitization, basic protocols of using the mask, social distancing. That has become very common now. Okay. So under the supervision of a good trek leader or the operator, this can be enforced more properly. So we don't need to focus much on that, because that is already existing. But here are a few things we need to do extra. Once we are in the hotel, we can utilize those 7 days. 7 days can be utilized in such a manner. We can hire professional mountaineers where they can tell their their experiences, where they can tell their do's and don'ts, what all they have gone through and what all they have to experience and share. Apart from that, the operators can hire people like cultural and heritage experts, those who can share their knowledge on architecture, culture, and heritage studies. Right, that can be second thing. Next is the localites, who can provide their services, who can provide their local knowledge on flora and fauna, cultural stuff. they can educate people in that 7 days. So these 7 days have been utilized. Now this is one thing. But before the client come, like I said, we need to be prepared in advance. So what I will do is, whatever people I'm working with, right? If I have a small number of team or a big number of team, I will train them accordingly. I will carry out mock drills, give them situations where they are already mentally prepared. Fine. Because now I'm also talking about people, those who come from lower education strata. Fine. Be it porters, be it other service providers, be it the individuals we are taking services of transportation, etc. So we can just hold a meeting, we can discuss the situation, and we can discuss the preparedness accordingly, so that it does not only inculcate the seriousness of the situation, but also when such a situation arises, they already have that mindset of what to do next. Fine. So this is what I meant by staff and everybody's preparedness. Now comes the trust building factors. Now, once you start going outside, let's say the 7 days quarantine period has been over. Now we are moving forward and we have started moving towards hills. Over there, first of all, it becomes the duty of the operator to send a message and contact with the village pradhan, okay, on a village level. Once we have got in touch with them, we will be able to regain their confidence. The pradhan will dispense all the information, down to the prominent people of the village, that everything is fine, everything is being carried on accordingly. So the word spreads accordingly. But this is very helpful, right? So this is kind of getting in touch with the basic level of administration, right? So that should be done. If in case any help is required, the Pradhan can help us. The localites are already aware, they can help us. Right? Once they're aware of our plan, number of people, their background, whatsoever it is, the localites will always have the confidence. So localite problem is not a big problem. All we need to do is be a little mindful and work accordingly. Right? So once we are in the high hills, be it in the trekking or expedition, it needless to say the things will be carried out just the way it is being carried out. Nothing can be done much. Now, once you're in the high altitude or let's say low altitude, I expect that if we have already followed the procedure, right, everything we have taken into consideration, the way it should be done, everybody is safe, nobody is contaminated. The best we can do over there is additionally the garbage management stuff, right? Instead of having multiple pits of garbage, multiple sacks of garbage, we can have maximum 1 or 2 for the wet garbage or a dry garbage, right? So that the management becomes easy, right? We need to be mindful of not contaminating the water, because there is 1% chance that still one could be affected by virus, because the virus has been COVID-19 has been reported to show its symptoms unexpected manner, in different manners. So we must not be 100% blindly sure that everything is fine. We must still take precautions, right? So now, apart from that, before the tourist or a group visits us, I will recommend them to go through, if I have any educational videos. For example, I have my YouTube channel where I have been making efforts to spread awareness and trying to share my understanding with people. So you can go through those videos. What is the basic way of maintaining foot hygiene, personal hygiene, water management, leave no trace, right? So all those videos can be watched one by one, so that your mindset is clear what exactly you are expected in the mountains at a higher level, right? So that can be done. So anybody who has such kind of initiative, that can be shared with their group initially, so that the people are already prepared. The most important thing is to provide, like I said, safe experience. So if we follow all these things, according to me, the safe experience will already be in process. One of the most important thing is, I would say 2 most important things is, we need to be ready for the rescue situations, right? In case somebody gets sick, I as an operator will already have one additional member who is trained in search and rescue or basic mountaineering skills, who has an experience, right? I will have that preparedness in advance. My communication line will be already set. This is what I would prefer. I can have a walkie-talkie, one at my station, the other could be at the nearest roadside station. I could be in touch with anybody, the nearest possible individual, right, to meet any sort of contingency. Most of the time we have seen, we have not been following these kind of procedures. But now, if you ask what additional we can do, this is what we can do. Have a rescue team ready, who should be already prepared and who should be already gone through the briefing, have a communication line properly set up, and be ready for any sort of unexpected situations, right? So similarly, when we come back, when we hit the roadhead, we reach our hotel back and the person leaves, till that time, right from point A to point B, everything should be carried out in this particular manner according to me. And this is what I would approach for. That's all I have to say.
Cool. Thank you so much for adding value here, Shahid. Romil, I have a very good question for you, because I know that you're already ready to hit the ground, basically. So any essential changes or any structural changes that you have done, or maybe you are looking forward to, which is required into tourism sector for its sustainability?
See, one, that's a nice question, because we are as it is planning something pretty soon. So what we plan to do is, we need to have a close liaison with the civil authorities and the medical facilities en route. Not just en route, as I said, but then with the at the location where we are operating. So if we are in sync, that we have all the telephone numbers, all the rescue problems available, because in case of any emergency, first and foremost is zero tolerance in these kind of situations. So
Yep.
it's not like somebody is not well, so we can still drag him up or we can push him. But in this case, there's no second chances given. So that is very important. Second thing which we need to focus is, we need to have a sanitization kit, especially with each of the teams, which would have, greater number of pulse oximeter to check thermal scanners, more use of sanitizers. Earlier, these have been very, very limited. But now the importance of all these becomes much more, because it's all about life and death. And initially, if anything goes wrong, then it's going to bring a bad name to the whole trekking community as such. So these things will be ensured right till in the letter and spirit, because in these cases you don't take any chances. The team leaders need to be better prepared, along with the medical guy, along with the team, that what are things which need to be taken care of as regards COVID symptoms are concerned. So these trainings, how to identify initial cases, how to take the steps once you find someone, and then initially you tell the people, that in case anything goes wrong, this is the final authority. There are no second chances which will need to be given. And whatever medical tie-ups you have done with the local agencies or with the hospitals, that team gets activated immediately in case of any symptoms coming up. So these are the steps or hacks we need to ensure once we go to the high altitude or expeditions once we start in next month.
Perfect. Keval, now, any strategy you guys are following to control the flow of people at a particular time? Is there any strategy in mind before moving ahead?
Yeah, so basically what I am planning to do is divide the groups. So we have lots of sector of operations, and we are really blessed with a huge Himalayan range. There are so many unexplored treks. We have so many hikes which are really not that attractive, but which really have the best scenic beauties. So we are trying to focus on that and distribute our people rather than just channelizing everything in one sector and one at a time. We are trying to distribute it. Like if suppose a group of 10 or 15 people are hiking to Prangla Pass, then the next 10 or 15 will be diverted in the region which is exactly opposite to it. So we are trying to distribute the people, and this is one thing that we have been following since long, that we have small groups, and also these groups are very well distributed so that they could see the diversity every time they hike with us. So yeah, we are planning to do that, and also we are planning to explore lots of unexplored places like Lahore. Right now, lots of progress is being made in Lahore, and there are very good hikes in that region. So we are trying to explore some of those parts as well. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now to all, because somehow we are in touch with the tourists, and being an operator, that is our prime responsibility to take care of their safety, the waste management strategy, also the pollution control. Like because more mask may be used, more gloves would be required when we are traveling, right? So any thought that we have in mind, okay, fine, we'll go. But yes, the clean Himalaya is something that is there in our mind. When we start the track, we climb the mountain, and then we come back. Any strategy, any thought, and your view also. What do you think about this? So, Rudra, in your case, of course, there is no mountain, but yes, mask, gloves, that required to you also when you're diving.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that's something I think that we've been thinking on. Nevertheless, waste management since the time COVID has started, well before I even anticipated that I will be able to go back to skydiving or any adventure sport for that matter is something that I've been really worried about. Because if you talk to any doctor, they will also tell you that these gloves and these surgical masks that we use are actually very, very bad for the environment. And
Yes.
if they are not properly disposed or rather properly, taken out, it's an even bigger problem. They'll just lie for tens of thousands of years exactly where they were, and nothing will happen to them. So I think as a responsible operator and more, of course, the focus is always on the operator, and it feels like it's someone else's responsibility. But I think as a responsible citizen who's going out and doing anything, it is also my own prerogative to make sure that I ensure that whatever waste I am secreting while I'm on any trip, I take care of it, and I know and I understand that it's all baggage that I must carry down and dispose properly. So in terms of what I can tell you, what we've done at the airport, it's pretty much very similar to what hospitals do. We have different color bags and different color dustbins for other stuff. We also promote the use of 3-layered cotton masks. I can tell you that Fab India has some really good ones. I'm sure you all have heard of Fab India. So it's not as effective as an N95 mask, but the surgical mask. But at the same time, a surgical mask is more needed if you're actually going into a containment zone or rather going into a hospital. When you're maintaining social distancing in a more less contained area, if you wear a 3-layer cloth mask, that is also good. So wearing those masks, having a separate plastic bag to store those masks, and then a separate making sure that you wash them yourself and wash them properly, and then reuse them will be one effective way of definitely going forward.
Wonderful, wonderful. Samson, would you like to add something here, since you are also from Aerosports? Samson, can you hear us?
Yeah. Basically, for us, we don't have this much as an issue because we really don't have an entry exit. We go to very big open fields, especially when we are doing paramotoring. We are going to a field bigger than the Mumbai airport. We have a salt pan which is as big as that, or we go to the coastal area. Over there, people really don't have to basically have an additional protection because we are isolated from the city. We are isolated from any villages. So it's only our team, which consists of only 3 people, and maybe the customers who we can actually time them for coming for joyrides or whatever, because we have a fixed time slot. So we really don't have a big issue as such. I'm very happy about it. But when it comes to a season where paragliding training is concerned, we may have more than 2 people in a batch. So we generally take about 3 people in a batch. That's about it. But yeah, I don't think we really are going to be affected that much because we are doing on a very smaller scale. But for people who are in this field who are taking maybe a batch of 10 students at a time, they might have to basically be careful about being separations or maybe isolation from each other, physical distancing. So I really won't know how they will handle this.
My same question is to the land tour operators. Anyone like Keval, Gaurav, Ramil, anyone who would like to answer, what is the strategy? How are you gonna take care of these 3 aspects, like, tourist safety, waste management, and pollution control?
So being in Sahyadris, like we have done lots of overnight treks, and monsoon has been one of the favorite seasons for the overnight treks. So we also conduct waste management drives. Like once the season ends, so we go to the famous spots, like there is Kalsubai, which is the highest point in the Western Ghats, the Sahyadris. So we clean it, and also there are various other hikes like Nane Ghat and other forts, which have been of great tourist attraction, or maybe hikers, they regularly hike over there for training or other purposes. So we organize such drives. We have been doing this in Song, but now when we talk about other batches, so what we have done is, in the end, we have kept a separate team. Once our hikes will be done, like suppose we are doing Kedarkanta, Brahmatal, or any hike in the Himalayas, so there will be one specific team that will start the hike en route the trail, and it will start collecting as much as waste possible, and it will keep on passing to the camps. So one camp to another camp, the waste will be deposited, and there will be a team that will carry it back to the city. So we have been following this since long, and we wish to continue now on a maybe larger scale, so that because we all know that how it impacts the plastic as well as, and it is so windy up there that hardly it takes time to spread. One plastic bag can fly to an unreachable valley, and it becomes very difficult to get it back. So, and also to our participants, we provide small waste pouches that whatever, if suppose chocolates or something that they are having, they immediately put it in the bags and they hand it over to the trek leaders. So we are very much concerned and very much like we strictly follow waste management, and that has been since long. So we would like to continue it on a more larger scale.
Romil, anything you would like to add here in terms of waste management and pollution control for the new normal? Yes, Gaurav, I'll come back to you. Yeah.
Right. So in our case, what we plan is that in case of anything which is suspected to be spreading the COVID thing, we need to have personal responsible for that. So in case I'm traveling, so I'll be responsible for disposing of my mask, and rather than throwing it in a central location, I'll collect it for the duration of the expedition. And once the expedition is over, then I dispose it off once we are back. So that is my responsibility, and so that I don't mix it up with other people or other kind of interactions which are happening. So COVID related, whatever stuff is there, I'm going to carry it back to me till the base camp, and then I'm going to dispose it off as per the procedures which are there of the state. So that's the only change. The rest of the things remains the same. I mean, whatever waste disposal we've been doing till now, that is going to continue.
I guess that is a good thing with everyone of us, who's into land tour operating, maybe, right, that we follow responsible tourism on the topmost priority. And I guess everyone is following those protocols that need to be followed, when we are traveling, when we are going up, when we are taking a group. Of course, that waste management is something that is our responsibility rather than others, right? Perfect. Gaurav, yes, you wanted to say something, please.
Yes, Manisha. So I think all in all, in basic, what we need to focus again and again, although everyone knows about this, is the awareness among the trekkers, the participants, the locals and the team, and the infrastructure which has to be laid down, let's say by the district authorities or the state government or even the national government, whatever it is. So I think these are the two most important things that have to be focused on in terms, if you want to work on the safety of the team, or the locals, the tourists, in terms of waste management, or for that matter, any such aspect related to trekking, climbing expedition.
Cool. Guys, any new thing that we are working on just to avoid that touch point, which ideally before this new normal was a normal thing, we used to give things physically, maybe when we are going up, the sleeping bags, the tents, maybe the sticks, maybe the other stuff which is required. So anything in our mind in terms of touch point that can be replaced by as much as digital experience that we can provide during, after the travel.
Well,
yeah, please go ahead, Gaurav.
I believe it would always be better, someone said out there, if someone brings his or her own sleeping bag or a tent, for that matter, the chances of for the contamination would be very low compared to in case if you use the same tent or sleeping bags which are provided by us operators to everyone. So I think that would be one major thing, and an easier thing that can be worked upon.
Okay. Shahid, you wanted to add something here?
Yeah, actually we can do a lot of things as far as the digital replacement of touch point is concerned. First of all, see, website is something that any person would get access to, right? So be it a government, let's say a tourism department's website, or tour operator's website, the information should be readily available. When I say information, there are a lot of things that comes in information. First of all, he should be educated about the scenario, do's and don'ts with respect to safety, important contact numbers, right? That could be of nearest hospital, dispensary, COVID help centers, like we have ASHA workers in Himachal Pradesh, right? So those kind of contact numbers should be available. Telephone contact number of taxi unions, important operators, and anything that is important. This is one thing. Second is where to get your information from, your equipments from. In case somebody wants to avail things like sleeping bags or rucksack, basic hiking stuff. So that can be availed through that information available, one on tourism department's website. This is what I would expect, right? And then we as an operator should be providing them all this information beforehand on the website. Like you said, what are the things that can be done digitally? Second is once they reach, they should have access to, let's say, for example, we have international client. First, the most thing that they have been complaining about is availability of non-availability of maps. Of course, as per the procedures, the contour maps and topographic maps are not available to civilians readily. Fine, but at least tracking maps should be available. These things are very basic things, right? That they can download from the websites itself if somebody wants it. All right. If they want to procure sanitization stuff, masks, hand sanitizer, they should be, like I said, contact numbers of ASHA workers, your nearest hospitals, dispensaries, where they can go and get them, right? So already the orders can be given. Second is, like you said, there should be one proper centralized data platform created. For example, let's have an app built. That app could be shared amongst operators, right? Every operator can have it. When the client comes, tourist comes, the app link should be provided to that particular group so that every information can be coordinated accordingly. Fine. So that is very important with respect to everybody staying in the same loop and being in touch. Apart from that, like I said, the education material should be readily available. If somebody has YouTube channel, somebody has blog, so the client comes, the operators should give them this kind of information. Now, see, we are all the maximum time we have only pictures available on the social medias, pictures of mountains, and that is readily available. There is no limit to it. Magar, what next can be done? What more can be done other than pictures? That is educating them, giving them information, giving them a reason to think like this is also existing and this is what needs to be incorporated. And that is very important. If you have such platforms available, maybe through a blog, maybe through a YouTube channel, or through anything that could be shared so that the client, let's say the tourist or whatsoever, they can be already educated without physical interaction or talking unnecessarily later on. Fine. So these are the things that can be done during the, let's say, a trek expedition or the tour, whatever they have come for. Like I said, if there is a centralized data collection or data sharing platform, like an application, so that should be available. Where the nearest destinations, what are the nearest important points to be visited, what are the nearest taxi unions, road landmarks, all this information should be available, right? Once the group leaves, like you asked, what could be done after it? The same feedback could be obtained in that particular platform, and the same feedback, same suggestions, same experience can be shared amongst all the operators commonly. The same experience can be shared with the authorities, local district level authorities or whatsoever level authorities, and later on everybody should have a meeting and work upon those issues so that the next lot of people, those who are coming, they have the better experience. Like I said, the overall approach should be on three factors. One of that is providing the safe experience and ensuring the safety, right? Rebuilding the trust. Like, so these things should be followed readily and with utmost seriousness and coordination. Yeah.
Keval, we discussed this part, I guess, when we spoke. We discussed this part, Gaurav, we've also discussed this part, like, when it comes to data forecast, like, what kind of number of tourists are allowed. Do you think that data is something, as we know, is a very crucial part, like, and until unless you don't have that benchmark of effective forecasting, we can't just manage, like, the entire traffic. This kind of tourists are gonna come in and this is how we're gonna control the flow, right? So any thought about the same content?
So basically, I work on a completely different module on what other companies work on. So we have our trekking programs right from Bombay to Bombay. where we arrange their travel and the whole group goes together, so that we come to know, what are the strengths and what are the weaknesses of the participants. As well as when we take the booking, before the batch departs, there is one meeting conducted in Mumbai itself in a common place, where we show them pictures of the previous group that has been on that trail, what things to bring. We show them physically over there, that how does a down suit look, which is a good down suit, like which is a good down jacket you need to wear. And we also conduct practice treks in the Sayadris, so that when they are going there, they do not face the problem, and most importantly, the leader does not face a problem. Also, the leaders that we send from here are medically trained, and they are basic advanced qualified. So we have been looking and setting this module, that we do not want to run base to base programs where we just send groups up and down, but it is a whole journey where the people come together and they are connected. So our intention was that this platform, people should connect with nature, and also they should learn with individuals when they meet and come across new people. So how people function and how the common things happen. So this is one practice which we have been doing since long, and we wish to do it for over the years to come. Along with that, now we would like to add up that we were focusing on the wildlife and flora and fauna, but also we would like to add up the COVID scenario, like how things have changed, and we would like, so that during the journey that we do together, we also maintain the hygiene and everybody looks after each other. Yeah, over to Rudra.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Rudra, yes, you wanted to add something.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to say that I think the responsibility of making sure that data is collected and there is an effective management in terms of what kind of traffic is being anticipated and what kind of traffic actually does come in lies less with individual operators. Of course, the operators owe it to share this data with the government effectively. But I think the responsibility lies more with government agencies that are, or maybe people like yourselves, so these forums where all of us operators come together, because it's very difficult for an individual operator to anticipate how many people are going to come to them or to a particular place in a season, be it any adventure sport. But I think the government, especially like from what I understand, whatever little travel I've done, most of these treks are now taken through permission and prior passes are made, and like at Manali, etc., all the cars are numbered, all the cars have passes, etc. So I think the government does have a lot of data in terms of what are the numbers that are coming in and what are the anticipated numbers, at which rate these numbers are growing. So maybe the government should be able to better manage these situations where in advance government can inform that, okay, for the month of June, say, or for the coming month of September, we are going to issue only 500 or 5,000 passes, and that if you are planning to plan a trek, you can actually apply for these passes maybe 6 months in advance, or 3 months in advance, to ensure that, okay, if a mountain or a particular trail or a particular track or a particular city has the capacity, whether it's pre-COVID or post-COVID, to handle only a limited number of people, then that number is met with. It's like how if you decide to go to Everest Base Camp, you have to make sure that you apply for a pass very well in time, because chances are you may not get it just because you landed up in Kathmandu and you decided to travel to Everest Base Camp. So that's something that the government or the people who are managing these passes need to do. I think the responsibility for us operators is to pass this data effectively to the people, but then it is on them to do.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Romil, Samson, anything that you would like to add to this point?
Yeah, actually, from my side, not much. As I said, we are just waiting for our meeting on 12th of August now with the Ministry of Tourism about the guidelines for Maharashtra.
Okay.
And that's how we are really unsure of what exactly will happen for our sport, especially the paragliding sport. And as I said, we still have 2 months to go or 3 months to go before we start. We are a bit unsure about how things will work out for us.
We will definitely get back to you on this, Samson. I hope that you would be happily able to share the bylines, so that we can feed in your inputs, how we are planning to move ahead post your meeting.
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. Romil, anything?
Manisha, regarding data, I think it's too early, because right now it's going to take some time before we come to the original normal, as we say, because not many people would be clear. And once the initial batches come out successfully without infecting the people there, then we need to bother. Till that time, what we need to ensure as an operators or as companies is we take a legitimate number of batch sizes, which I'm sure everybody is responsible enough to handle. Then only we'll be able to contribute. And government on their side, they should be ensuring in times to come. But as of now, it's okay if a lot of people are going, because a lot of people going right now is not the original ones which we were having last year or maybe in the times when things were perfectly fine. So in the next about a year or so, I think only upon the operators to ensure that they are carrying only the manageable number of people, and whosoever they are traveling with, they are aware that the kind of situation they are going to follow and the precautions they need to be taken care of once they are once they are in these expeditions.
Right. I have a very interesting question. Like, in this new normal, of course, quality is something which need to be on top priority. We can't just compromise. And anyhow, this is going to impact the cost of the package, maybe any departure, any dive also. So what is your thought, like, how the new normal is going to impact the cost? Maybe you're going to increase it by just like, keeping the safety measures in point, which ideally, I believe, like, tourists would also be able to cope up with. I mean, they don't have any say no to, adopting things when it comes to basic hygiene and the safety. So anyone who would like to address this? Yes, Romil.
Manisha, the thing is, right now the people who are interested in going for treks and expeditions, whomsoever we are interacting, are the people who are hardcore. I mean, these people are just frustrated being inside the houses in the lockdown mode. So they're just dying to just step out. So these are the people who not bother much about the cost. And other factor is they are the people who are sensible enough to understand that the whole economy and the people on ground are suffering badly, big time. So they won't mind paying extra, and whatever the extra is going to come up is going to be invested in them as regards the sanitation concerns which are there to address those, and for the people who are going to be there on ground working for them. So cost wise, I don't think the trekkers would mind paying a bit extra till the time things become normal.
Yes,
that's
yes.
our take for that.
It is a costly sport. We know it.
Yes.
Yes. So
well, what I can tell you, I didn't want to interrupt and be the only person talking, but what I can tell you is that COVID has also taught a lot of people who have been sitting at home and wondering what they were doing with their lives, that life is a lot more than just sitting at home and working hard and earning a lot of money. I live in a city, I live in Noida and Delhi. I realize that people have got a lot more aware of their own physical body and how exercise is important. So what I can tell you is that even though it is very preliminary and we have just opened our bookings for the upcoming season, we have seen a phenomenal response. And this is something I want to tell even to my fellow operators, that while there is a lot of darkness right now, I think there's a lot of light at the end of the tunnel. People are really realizing the value of adventure sports, of going out there, being with nature. So sooner or later, it's going to bounce back to us even stronger. We are very happy with the kind of response we have already started getting in the pre-booking of our upcoming season, and I'm sure it will be the case as and when each and every adventure sport opens, because people do suddenly realize that life, COVID can stop life, so might as well live it now more than ever.
Any closure statement, Keval?
Yeah, I mean, same thing as Rudra put forward, that people are really, I get many calls, that everybody is active on Instagram. They're posting pictures of their expeditions. You're posting your pictures from your Everest and Lhotse climbs, but we don't have anything because we have never been anywhere. So now they had really understood and they started missing. This is just a small example, and lots of people are looking forward to come ahead. But I would just like to say that the more the people will be coming ahead, it becomes our duty to see things are really safe for them, and to come up with more initiatives. And what all discussions today we had, so I try to note many things, and we could come forward and keep each other posted about their things, so we can coordinate and help each other. So that will be really good. Yeah.
That is the overall objective why we want all stakeholders to come together and face this situation. Samson, any closure statement?
Yes, I would like to say that during this time of COVID, actually I got the maximum number of calls from people to talk, get introduced to this sport now. I had never had so many inquiries, and the amount of work I have been doing for the community as such, for documentation and other things, couldn't have been possible. So there's a lot of good things which came out of COVID-19. Yeah, thank you.
Shahid, the closure statement?
Well, according to me, there could be only one closure statement. Like there's a saying that it's not the strongest who survives; it's only the person willing to adjust to the changes. He survives. And apart from that, as far as the tourists are, the tour operators are concerned, if you follow, according to me, if we follow these three parameters: operational and staff preparedness, safe experience for everybody, and the last one is building trust, I think we will have a clear-cut understanding of what strategies we need to have and what strategies we need to, proceed our action upon. So that's all I have got to say.
Right. Romil, any closure statement?
See, our side, we've got to take precautions. That's most important. Once the things open up, so that to have build confidence among the future trekkers. That is going to be a key for the trekkers as well as for the local community there.
Perfect. We somehow lost contact with Gaurav. I will try to get his file and post this thing. Anyways, thank you guys. Thank you so much once again. It was really an interactive session. We've got a lot of valuable inputs, and we look forward for your participation, as a stakeholder, to come together and to fight against the situation. I would just like to close it it is a fact of matter that travel and tourism is by far worst hit industry by COVID-19. We understand that. However, we firmly believe that this time of emergency is an opportunity for all the stakeholders to come together, as I said, support each other, and focus on bouncing back more robust and common standard with sustainability. We spoke about engaging local as a priority audience and with a mindset of them as a business partner. The people most invested in the long-term sustainability of a place, economic, social, and environmental wise, are locals. So we need to treat them as both customers and ambassadors. This pandemic is sure to bring about a change in our current behavior and help create an approach for long-term human survival. The industry, tourists, and other stakeholders should be encouraged by policymakers to act on a sustainability by creating an environment that could ideally facilitate a more sustainable model of tourism. So with this final note, I would like to sign off here, and would like to thank everyone in the panel for taking out time from their busy schedules to discuss and conclude the ideal strategy that need to be adopted in the new normal. We will be back soon with such interesting content, guys, and more good speakers in panel. Till that, thank you so much, everyone. Please stay safe and goodbye. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you,
Goodbye. Goodbye. Thanks for inviting us. Bye.
Yeah.